Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all good? I hope so. Y'all, let's get into episode 4 of Savage Beauty season 1. And we have 2 more episodes after this, and the new season starts on the 28th on Netflix, okay? So the scene opens with Zinhle leaving the house, but Dunn stops her in the courtyard and asks her where was she rushing off to. She says she was going to the studio because she likes to mentally prepare for the day. Then she tries to walk off. Dunn grabbed her arm, which made her have a flashback to being in that rundown shed getting abused. Then she snaps out of it and Dunn tells her that he saw the Durban photos and he wants her to keep up the good work. She says okay, and then she rushes off. She makes it over to Bonga's and he has her smelling the product that he stole from the factory. He said he's sure that they produce like thousands of bottles of bleach per month and he wants to know like how are we going to put our plan into motion. Zinke tells him that's where he can start the fire, but make sure that there are a few products left so that the Cosmetics Bureau can investigate. Bonga just has to find a way to get in though, but he notices that Z seems distracted and he asks her if she was okay and what was up with Indu. She said that it's over between them and that her head is back in the mission. He said that's what I wanted to hear, but you could tell by Z's face that she didn't want to break up with Indu. Z makes it to the office and she sees Pila in his office, so she steps to the side and starts crying. He sees her when he walks out and he stopped and asks her if she was okay. She tells him that her and Indu broke up and he was like, yeah, he mentioned that things didn't go too well. So Z says she thinks what she needs to do is go out and have fun. So she tells Pila that she was invited to a warehouse party and that he should go with her. First he was like, nah, I'm through with parties. Then she begs him to go and he gives in. And I'm like, boy, you better tell Indu that she invited you to a party. Back over at the factory, Bonga is taking surveillance, but Kolabe could feel somebody looking at them, so he pulls everybody else back inside the gate. Now at the house, Z is about to head out to the party with Fila and Indu stops her because he wants to have a conversation. But then Fila walks up and says, no, like he's ready to go. So Indu is looking like, what is this? So he asks Fila if he was heading out with Z. And he says, yeah, just an innocent night out. But listen, Fila should have known that Indu was gonna, feel away because Fila gets all the girls. He almost a gigolo. But Felix pulls Indu to the side and says that Z will talk to him when she's ready to talk to him. He just needs to give her some time. But Indu just wants to know what happened between them because her decision to break up with him came out of nowhere. Felix says just give it time and I'm going to take care of her tonight and make sure no other guys try to talk to her. Back over at the factory, Kolebe walks out to Bonga's car and asks him if he was okay and he was looking for something. He said no, he was just waiting for Mabale. And Kolebe says he doesn't know a Mbale. There isn't an Mbale who works there. Kolebe keeps staring at Bonga and he asks him if he knew him from somewhere. And Bonga says no. So Kolebe he shrugs it off and tells Bonga that he can't be parked outside the factory. So Bonga says sure and he drives off. Later on that night, Bonga went back to the factory, knocked out a guard, and snuck into the warehouse. And he did what he came to do, and that was to set the place on fire. He leaves out of the warehouse and calls 911 to let them know that there was a fire on the 11th Street. Kolebe is in the warehouse, but he has his headphones on. But he notices the smoke. He gets up to try to put it out, but it's just too much. All of a sudden, Bonga hears someone yelling for help, so he runs back in to help Kolebe. Now, why did he do that? I don't know. Especially since Kolebe felt like he recognized Bonga earlier anyway. So as Bonga rushes in, his jacket sleeve catches on fire. He pulls it off and rushes over to Kolebe. I would have just covered Kolebe's Is it Kolebe? Kolebe's face with it because he was passed out anyway and I don't need him recognizing me. But Bonga started tapping on the man to see if he was okay. Then Kolebe wakes up a little and notices the scars on Bonga's hand and he says, I know you. And he passes back out. Bonga picks him up and takes him out of the warehouse. Z and Fila are heading to this so-called warehouse party, and Z sees the smoke, so she asks Philo, what was that? Philo realizes that it's coming from the direction of the warehouse, so he goes over to the warehouse and jumps out of the car. He told Z to stay there because, he trying to protect the family secret. He rushes in, sees how bad it is, but he notices a pallet with product on it by the door. So one of the workers pulled the truck around and they pulled it out, right? Now, before Z jumps out of the car to go help, she has called to see if Angela, the journalist, is on the way. So she then goes over to help them put the boxes on the back of the truck. Angela pulls up with her cameraman in tow, baby. She starts asking Philo a lot of questions. He's stuttering. Z puts one of the boxes on the arm of the bed and then she accidentally knocks it over. And Angela's cameraman got it all on tape. They head back home and Grace and Dawn are standing outside, furious. They tell Z to go to her cottage and Dawn asks Philo, what were you thinking? He explained that he and Z were headed to a warehouse party. They saw a fire and he thought it was coming from one of their warehouses, so he went to check it out. And he saved some of the merchandise. Dawn told Philo that he was an idiot because he shouldn't have went over there. And Philo was like, oh, I'm sorry that I don't know the rules of running a criminal empire. Grace said that she'll handle the PR. Indu, he's just standing there confused because they leave him out of the loop on everything. So he heads over to Z's cottage to get some answers, but she says that she's tired and she just want to get in the shower and go to bed. Now, while they're still sitting there going off on Philo trying to get in touch with Kolebe, Philo gets a news notification on his phone, and the news reporter is saying how Bhengus Beauty has been caught manufacturing illegal beauty products. And then they see the footage that Angela's team caught, and Don, he just walk off. And over at Tando's and Linda's, Tando is watching it and she showed it to Linda. Linda immediately tries to call her dad, but the line was busy. Tando asked Linda if she knew about the products and she said yes. And Tando, she could not believe that Linda would be involved with something like that. So she just walked out of the room too. The next day, Z gets a call from Bonga. He tells her that he needs her to get over to the house immediately. She doesn't know what it's about, but she rushes out of the house only to run into Indu in the kitchen. She tells him that she's having a really bad migraine and she needed to go to the doctor. She asks if he will cover for her because they are not allowed to leave the house. He said that he would, so she makes her way over to Bonga only to see that this man that took Kolebe to his house and has him handcuffed to a chair. Z was like, what the F? Bonga said he didn't know what else to do. So Z tells him that he's going to have to get him from over there. But when Bonga goes to uncuff Kolebe, Kolebe says, I knew you. I knew you. You're the little boy. I could tell from the scars on your hand and face. And he asks him, how did he escape the fire? Z is in the back. She just standing up there fuming because him knowing who Bonga is could really ruin their entire plan. Now back over at the mansion, Don is calling Kolebe, but there's no answer because, he over there tied up with Bonga and Z. Don thinks that Kolebe is behind the fire because he's not answering his phone. He's not calling them back. So Grace wants to know, why would Don think Kolebe would do that? And the look on her face makes Don ask her if there was something she wanted to tell him about the two of them. Because first, Kolebe says he was quitting and then he disappears in the middle of a scandal. So Grace says, you know how he always tries to get at me. And Don's like, yeah, every few years he tries to sleep with you. But what was so different this time around? So Grace explains that she thought Don was going to pass away after his heart attack and Kolebe was there for her. He was nice to her and they met at a hotel and he tried to sleep with her, but she stopped him before anything could happen. And she said some harsh things to him so that he would leave her alone for good. Don says, fool. Grace says, yes, I told him he's a fool for coming after me all this time. Baby, Dawn turned around and said, no, you're the fool. And she's like, me? How am I the fool? He says, yeah, you know that Kolebe did everything because of his feelings for you, but you had to go and mess it all up. She was like, Dawn, I'm your wife. That man said, so what? And she couldn't believe he said that to her. So over there with Indu, he's sitting by the pool looking at some of the pictures of what the chemicals in the products have been doing to people's skin. He goes in to show the family and he asks them if they, care about what their products are doing to people. And Grace tells him, grow up or get out. Grace wants to know what can they do now. Don says, look, somebody got to take the fall for this. And Indu can't believe that this is really his family. So Grace suggests that Kalebe takes the fall because it's either them or him. So she tells Indu to be useful and go get Z because she needed to be briefed on what to say. But he tells them that Z went to the doctor because she was sick and Grace loses it. Don, again, he done walked off. They are stressing that man out so bad. Back over at Bonga's, they're trying to figure out what to do with Kalebe. Z says that she has a plan, but she tells Bonga that he might not like it. So they go into the room, right, where Kalebe is cuffed and they take his blindfold off. He looks confused and says, Zinhle, what are you doing here? Z lets him know that Bonga is her brother, but he wants to know, how are y'all siblings and you're the face of Bhengus Beauty? Kalebe doesn't even remember her being one of the kids at the house. He wanted to know about the fire, and Z explains that all three of them escaped and that their sister passed away in that very room 7 months ago from liver cancer from the chemicals in the products that they were testing on them. But Z lets him know that they never would have survived how Dunn and Grace treated them if it hadn't been for Kalebe. He apologizes for the mistreatment, and Z says, if you're really sorry, help us show the world who Dunn and Grace really are. But Kalebe says he can't do it. And Bonga yells and storms out of the room. He is hurt. And Z goes behind him to check on him, and there's a flashback of Kalebe treating Z's burn. Then they flash back to the present, and Z is telling Kalebe that he was like a father to them in that place, that he took care of them. He said that he wasn't, but she said, in your own way, you did take care of us. He was still saying that he couldn't help them, but Z tells him if he knew what was good for him, he would help them. And he was like, or else what? Just let me go. Dawn and Grace will never know. But then her phone starts ringing and it's Indu. He was trying to see if she was done at the doctor's office. So she tells him, that she's running a little late. She asks him if everything was okay. He said that things were a little crazy and that they were trying to pin everything on the guy who ran the factory. And that was all Z needed to hear. So she goes in and shows Kalebe a news report that says that he owns the factory and that there was a warrant out for his arrest. So she asked him if he was still going to help Dunn and Grace. She had Bonga unlock Kalebe's phone and call Grace. Grace answers and she tells him that he is the only one who could make everything go away and that Dunn won't let him spend one night in jail. But they hang up the phone and Z and Bonga, they want to know, are you going to help us? And he said that he will help. Now back over at Linda's and Tando's, Linda is replaying the news report of Fila and Z at the factory. Tando is mad because she feels like Linda is obsessing over it. But Linda notices that Z pushed that open box over on purpose. And she tells Tando to look at it, but Tando wants to say she don't want no parts of it. She feels like they are now free from Dawn and she wants no parts of that family. And she feels like Linda is just trying to pull Z into her daddy issues. But Linda tells Tando that she wants Z to stop being, Linda tells Tando that she wants her and Z to stop being friends. And Tando's like, you're just like your father, controlling. So then Linda calls a friend and asks them if they had a copy of the guest list from the Emerald party. And they say that they do. So she's waiting on them to send it over because things just aren't adding up in her head because she wants to know how did somebody get a recording of her and Tando at that party. Back over at Bonga's, Z is telling Kalebe that Grace sent a copy of his statement for the press conference, and she asked him if he wanted to see it. He said, nah, he know what it'll say. Z tells him that she'll reveal herself after he tells everyone about the test. Bonga wanted to know what would Kalebe do if Dawn and Grace denied testing the products on the kids, and he said that he has documents at his house that would implicate them. They just needed to pick them up. For some reason, I don't trust that Kalebe will go through with it, but we shall see. And Z tells him that he better not let them down again. Back over at the house, Z makes it back and Indu is waiting for her. He really wants to know what happened between them and why does she keep avoiding him. She tells him that he'll never understand, but everything will make sense tomorrow. And she gives him a hug. When she said that, it made my stomach drop because I just don't think things are going to work out the way they're hoping it will. Now everybody's heading to the press conference and Bonga drops Kolebe off. He also gives him the documents that he said he needed to implicate Don and Grace. And I was like, I hope you made copies of those documents, Bonga. Before Kolebe gets out of the car, Bonga asks him, why is he still in touch with Don and Grace? Like, why are you still in business with them? And Kolebe says, love. The family arrives at the press conference and the reporters are ready to attack. So Kalebe walks into the building and he sends a text to Grace that says, whatever happens, just know that I love you, but it ends today. I'll protect you. So she shows it to Don. And then he sends a text to somebody and says, get that pig, take him to my car. And you see this man approach him with a pow pow and puts it to his neck. Then you hear Don's phone text alert go off again, and then he gets up from the conference table. Bonga is waiting in the parking garage so he can see the henchman handling Kalebe. So he sends a text to Z and tells her to get to the car immediately. Indu is being nosy and asks her if she was okay. She says, yeah, I have to go to the bathroom. And she gets up and then he gets up right behind her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why is he so clingy? I know you really like this girl, but you are going to push her further away from you. She really likes you, Indu, but you are doing too much. Then we see Grace lean over to Pila and she tells him, Kalebe is clearly not coming. It's time for your statement. And Pila is looking confused because they already went over how this is supposed to go. So for her to lean over and say that, he don't even know what's going on. Now, while Z is running to the parking garage, not knowing that Indu is right behind her, Pila is making his statement to the press at the same time. Don makes it down to the parking garage and jumps in his Jeep where they put Kalebe, and Bonga follows them. Pila is saying that Kalebe started manufacturing skin bleaching products without their knowledge, and they see that as a clear sign of betrayal. Now, Angela is, she's sitting there, she looking at Pila and Grace like, I can't believe this mess. So Pila continues with his speech, and he says that when they gave Kalebe the chance to explain his actions, he disappeared. And he asks that they put their trust back into Bhengus Beauty because all of their products have been tested and they are 100% safe. Indu walks back in and catches the end of Pila's speech and he is disgusted. So he walks right back out. And one thing this family do, baby, they will walk out of a room. Now, Bonga and Z are trying to keep up with Don and they track him to where they took Kalebe. They start running, but they didn't make it in time. Don took the documents from Kalebe and asked him why now. Why are you doing this now? Are you doing this because my wife wouldn't be with you? And baby, by the time they could reach him, they heard a pop go off. And Don had popped Kalebe. And it took all the strength in Z's body to pull Bonga back. He wanted to run over there so bad. He was so hurt. Just so hurt. Both of them were just standing up there crying, y'all. And that's how the episode ended. Whew, this a good show right here. But that is episode 4 of Savage Beauty. We have 2 more episodes in the first season, and the second season starts on the 28th. Okay, get down in the comments, let me know what you think about this. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.